Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this episode, I talked to Danusha Chandrasekaran about empowering through writing. Hi, Danusha. Thank you so much for accepting my invite to be in my podcast. Thanks for your time appearing today. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Venkat, for having me. I'm doing absolutely fine. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. As an introduction to the audience, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. This is Danusha here. I'm the founder of Serenity magazine. I'm also an author. I am a mom, a seeker, a dreamer, an avid reader, a logophile, and definitely a bibliophile.
Wow, there are so many fields out there, so we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
So tell us about your Serenity e-magazine. What is it about?
Serenity magazine is a positivity magazine where I reinforce positive statements through articles. Before I started Serenity magazine, the first thing was I had a group on WhatsApp which is called Seeds of Hope. So my idea of starting Seeds of Hope was to empower women and to create safe spaces for them. I wanted to bring all of my friends and family, and we used to share a lot of articles, and it was more of connecting people to each other, where it was a learning based platform and they could learn from each other and inspire each other. You could ask questions. It was somewhere where they could feel safe. My thing was also that I found that women in general, despite being in a professional level or personally, it didn't matter. It was like there was so much of struggles they were going through, and in my capacity, I was like trying to find a way to keep all of these people safe. So I wanted to create a safe space, and that was the idea when I started Seeds of Hope. And I was we actually went on to complete a year, and it was very successful. When I was there, it gave me this idea to that was from there that seed actually came. And I wanted to do something more. And one was like I needed it to have like a monetary side of it to help me to be financially independent was one. And actually, there was another reason which I was doing is because I was into a lot of philanthropic acts, and I didn't want to ask my husband or anyone else to help me. I wanted to support causes, and I was doing a lot of these kind of acts, and I wanted to be independent in that way. So that was how, from Seeds of Hope, the idea to do Serenity was born. So for that also, I needed people to help me. So when I approached my friend, she was the first one who completely supported me. She believed in my dreams, and she was like, you need to go ahead and do what you want to do, and we can work it from there. So to Ines, yeah, I'm extremely grateful, because from that point of time, it like all of my friends and family just were on board with the idea. I had worked out the whole thing of how Serenity would be and what were the articles or topics which I would be sharing. So it was like every single day, so I would post based on themes, like there would be different articles, different themes. So I had my own ideas, like what to write, how to write, what all it would be, and collect everything from the it's just not my own stuff. There would also be articles I would read and compile it and make it accessible for them, so they don't have to go through a lot of the trash or other stuff to read the good stuff. So that was my idea. And that was how Serenity kept, like, it was developed. Then I used to get feedback from my readers and ask them what more they wanted, or where they would, what ideas or what would they like to know more about. So as and when they gave the feedback, I would change the content depending on that ad, or they do something. And so it's like we've been just working on it. And my brother is a part of Serenity, because we do it in two formats. One is like we work, it's a digital, because it's a digital mode, and it's on WhatsApp. So people subscribe and they read. Then there are the other people who are also there, who don't have the time to read every single day. So we made it as two different formats, magazine format, and then there's this everyday content format. So the articles which were compiled were designed as a magazine, and that link would be shared with the readers who would read it for just like in a month. Maybe sometimes we experimented and did it like bi-monthly, and then we do it a month. So it is a design magazine format, and they would take their time and read. What I would say from Serenity was it gave me so much in life, because I learned to become more independent. I was like consciously and consistently upgrading myself to do more writing. And also the content and the people who subscribe, they just kept supporting me. And that's why we are actually into our fourth year. We're just going to, in another few months, we're actually completing 4 years of Serenity. Actually, so extremely grateful because of Serenity. My books also happened. So that was like the next stage, which I didn't even intend on or had no idea, but that's how it evolved.
Wow, that's a wonderful journey. And talking about your books, you mentioned that you have written two books and the third one is in the pipeline. So, can you tell us about what has been written already and also about your book that is in progress?
Actually, two books I've completed. My first book is Have You Found Your Happy Place? And my second book was Who Stole Your Rainbow? So, my first book was a book of quotations. In one of the sessions in Serenity, one day, we would do these positive quotes, and my brother would design nice pictures, and I used to write articles. So, it was something which was very much liked by most of the readers. They like repeatedly wanted, and it was like one thing was maybe it was the time, in very less time you could get a lot of message from it. So that was the idea when I started. I wrote the first book was like all about the quotations and my thoughts on it, and it was actually a small book. So I was a little apprehensive, to be very honest. I have no idea about how the publishing works, or the whole thing of whether I was courageous enough to put myself out there and to face the feedback which I would be getting. So I wanted to give it a shot, because I really wanted to see what it was I could do in my life. I had actually had the content for my first second book also. It was already there in place. The idea for the second book was also there. But then the second book, I knew how it was. But before I could publish my second book, I needed to like put the first book out there to see how it works so that my second book would be even better. And by so much of, I had so much of help from my family, my husband and my children. They all supported me really really well, because it was during the stages of COVID, and we were at home, and they actually all banded together. My brothers, everybody came together, and the whole idea was like it just like came up so well that the first one I was able to do, and I got it published by June. The second one, because I had already a clear idea, I could also publish the second book. So that was how my first two books were. It was not like I'm actually quite happy that I was able to do that and overcome the fears of just putting myself out there. My third book, unfortunately, like I couldn't like take it from there, because uh, after my books were published and this thing, my mom, she fell ill and she was diagnosed with metastatic cancer. And so when that happened, it was like everything in my life just came to a standstill. I had to take a break, pause. I just had to step back from all of the other things. And it was like primarily I started focusing on getting my mom better. And that was the time I decided I wasn't going to do take up anymore, because mentally I wasn't very much in a good space. It was like emotionally very tired, very exhausting. And also it was like it was a scary phase also. And the other thing was my younger son was also, he was in his board 12th, so he was doing his board exams. And it all just came together, and it was like I needed to be there for them to try and get each of them into their different to meet their different needs. So that was when I completely, except for Serenity, which I was like completely focused on, and I never missed a day. I decided the rest of the things didn't matter that much to me. And I just left things like that way. But then, as they say, once you're a writer, you're always a writer. So my thing was like, suddenly I was like always being inspired to keep writing. So it was just there for me. But this time it was not like I didn't have the energies to write long things, but I was like more of writing small messages. So the third book was, it's like more of poetry and prose. It's like verse format. It's like the small it's like nuggets. You just read them and you're going to get a message from it. So that was my idea for my third book. And that's how I started. Because one thing is, as I mentioned, I am a logophile. I really enjoy words. For me, words are very empowering. Once I read something, I just get the message from there. And it can just drastically change something for me. It can flip something in me. I can just completely switch from feeling in a low mood. I can just like, oh wow, yeah, I can do this. So those are the things. Like, I read so many books, and when I read them, I am like completely transported to another world. So my idea was, I wanted to give the same feeling back to the other readers. And that's how this idea for writing my third book came. And my third book is almost done. It's just, as you would also probably know, it just needs a lot more of me to be a little more ruthless in my editing and finish up and wind up and then just get it published. So that's with my third book, actually.
Okay. These two books that you have already written, are they available in the printed form or are they in the ebook format?
The first two books are available both in printed. They are in Amazon. They are there, and they also it's the Kindle version of the books are available. I am going to be frank. I am like a typical, old-fashioned person who just needs a book. I just love holding a book. So my idea was like, I needed to have the paperback out there, because that's how I still read. I need books. I just like holding them, and it gives me that comfort of knowing that I have a book. So both my books are actually in paperback.
Yeah, that's understandable because many people feel that they need to have the book in hand so that they can get the feel of reading a book. So
Yeah.
it's great that you empathize with people like that. So great, let's move on and talk about your family. You mentioned that your children are so close to you and they are kind of your North Star. So can you tell us about a bit about them?
Yeah, okay. So that is true. My children are my North Star. It's like as if my compass has been set in their direction. Because for me, when I was growing up, I have been in hostel all of my life. So maybe that's like within me. Cause it's like I have these trust issues. So it was like as if when my children born, it was like I needed to be there for them. Only if I was there, it was just my mind. I just felt that I would be the best person to take care of them. So I made these choices consciously, that I wanted to be there for my children and be with them as they were growing up. I actually did my master's in human development, which focuses on early childhood development. So it was like all of my education and wanting to with the children and being there for them was always somewhere there in my mind, and it was something I wanted to do. My journey has been just always, it has been attuned to them. I liked doing everything for them, just being part of their school projects, assisting them, just like it for me, it was like something I really enjoyed. And then as and when they grew up, I also learned more. I learned like even my cooking evolved as they grew up according to their taste. I learned, I improved, and I just kept on reinventing myself. But there was also this Gemini streak in me, which is like has this creative thing where I can't be quiet. So I always tried other things on the side. I actually worked with my younger brother in his advertising firm. I was like trying to do this creative part of it. So I used to just be there assisting in some way, so that I am not bored completely, but I'm also available for my kids, so that I could always be there as a mentor for them and also be a friend. So it was like everything was like I needed to be their coach. I needed to ensure that they had their mom as somebody they could look up to. And one of the underlying reasons would also be like, since I had boys, for me it became suddenly very imperative that I just felt so hugely responsible that I wanted to ensure that when the boys were adults, I needed to ensure that my children were going to treat women right. For me, that became like something, I don't know, it was like very crucial for me that my boys knew how to treat women right. Repetitively, I ensure that they know how to treat the students who they studied with. They needed to be kind with them. They needed to respect them. There was no bad languages allowed. They shouldn't speak all that. They weren't allowed to raise their hands. You have to mind the words they use, the tone, and how they spoke, and especially when there were women around. So for me, that became like something, it was a driving force actually for me. So I ensured that this is how my children would be. And later on, when they are out in the world, I felt that if they were like brought up correctly with correct values, I knew that they would treat other women properly, keep them safe, give them the respect they need, and they would also ensure that the women were not looked down upon. Women needed to be respected. For me, that was like, it was like a crusade actually. So I ensured that I did right, and I think I'm quite proud to say that my boys have turned out amazingly well.
That's great. Tell us about your cooking. What kind of cuisines are you practicing and which ones are your favorites?
I'm actually a person who really likes cooking. For me, cooking is something which is very therapeutic. I enjoy the whole process of cooking and serving, and it's like I'm like, it's my comfort zone. I'm so happy when people come over. I'm just waiting when people will come over. I'm all of, whether it's my son's friends, my family, my friends, I'm like super excited when people say they're coming over. It's like I would also have mentally planned a menu. I would know this is what I'm going to do, and I would ensure that I can try and give them as much as different varieties as I can. I'll ensure that within the span of the days they're there, that there's no repeated menu and everything would be new, and I would just keep trying to serve them whatever I can. Earlier, like when my kids were small and they enjoyed baking, I learned baking and I used to bake a lot. But then because of all the sugar content and the refined flour and all of that, I slowly stepped out of all of that. Right now I'm become more like into health. It's more of healthy cooking. So I'm trying to innovate the recipes. Since I am a vegetarian, I tend to use a lot of vegetables. I just love vegetables. So they are always there in my food. And I make a lot of vegetarian dishes, and especially salads. It has to be colorful, it has to be complete, and there has to be a balance.
Okay, apart from healthy food, what other health tips can you give us?
I would tell people Google isn't your doctor. When you have an ailment, please go talk to a doctor, get their opinion, and from there, you need to figure out how best to proceed. Another thing is like movement. I would say you need to be physically active and move a lot. So the thing is, people, their professions may not give them the time required to move. But the thing is, it's up to each one of us. It's like how we make the time and how we decide how much you love yourself, to prioritize yourself, and you want to take care of yourself so that you are just fit and available to take care of your loved ones. So that is why health is a priority. Exercise is also a priority. Constant movement. It can be anything, any form of exercise. Even if you're not having the time to go, no, what I would suggest is find the movement within the spaces you are. Wherever you are, try to make those small increment steps, no, take those steps to move. So that would be one thing. Learn how to read the labels. They can educate not only themselves, they can educate their children also, and their family in turn. And it becomes a ripple effect where people know what it is they're consuming or what it is they're buying, and then this is what you have to avoid. These are a few things that are like right over the top of my mind now.
Okay, wonderful. In order to be a writer, I believe that you also need to be a avid reader because that's where you learn and you try to improve on your craft. So, what kind of books do you read? What are your genre?
Okay, where the books are concerned, addicted to the core. I can just like be alone, locked with my books, and I'm like completely in a calm, centered zone. It's like reminiscent of my childhood. It brings back so much of happy memories. It is like a connection I have with my dad. I have also been constantly reading. There's never been any phase in my life never read. Initial stages of my life would be definitely a lot of fiction. I was like actually a quick reader to read more than 100 books a year initially and all of those days. And then when Serenity happened, it was then that my whole reading thing completely changed. So I slowly started reading non-fiction. So when I moved to non-fiction, so much of books I was like interested in reading. I genuinely like learning a lot of new stuff. I just enjoy reading, and there's so much I want to know, and there's so much I still don't know. So for me, it was whether it was health, whether it was nutrition, whether it was productivity, time management, spirituality, yoga, pranayama. It was like everything was like, wow, there's so much I don't know and I want to learn. And then I would read them, learn from them, and then I would feel so empowered. I have to credit my friends because I'm blessed to have friends like who just we have birthday traditions going on. They are like like Santa Clauses for me. They just like buy me whatever I want, and it's like I have more than a year's supply of books. There's so many thoughts out there and perspectives you come to know only once you've read them. So those are what helped me to become the writer or the person I am today. So yeah, books they are like a part of my life.
Okay, wonderful. So great. Thanks a lot for spending time with us and sharing your thoughts on so many things. It has been a pleasure. I wish you all the best in whatever you aspire to do in your future. All the best for your work in terms of your magazine as well as other endeavors too. Thanks a lot, Danusha, for being in the podcast.
Thank you so much, Venkat. It's been an honor and a great pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye bye. That was a great podcast with Danusha Chandrasekaran. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.